everyone, welcome back. Background's different because reasons. So I want to talk about the paradox of writing diversity. And I call it a paradox because, first of all, no matter what you write, there will always be someone who's upset, sometimes rightly so, sometimes not. And another thing to think about is when some people write diversity or certain types of diversity, they end up adhering to tired tropes or harmful cliches and stereotypes. And in my opinion, that's worse than no representation of diversity at all. Anyway, I've got my handy dandy notes, so let's get into the video. So the first thing I want to say is that diversity means more than just people of color in LGBTQA. There's a whole range of marginalization and underrepresentation, much of which is intersectional, such as Billy, the Blue Ranger in the newer Power Ranger movies, being both black and autistic, although the depiction of autism is problematic. On that note, there need to be more discussions surrounding depicting characters on the autism spectrum, because many of the characteristics of these characters are misrepresented, played for laughs, or they are traits given to robots. They're treated as inhuman traits. In Billy's case, he's the genius, literal thinking, savant, Hollywood stereotype. Also, please ignore these books. I totally forgot that they would be looking like this in the shot, but my cat, one second. This cat right here, she is the one who scratched them up. Look at her, sleeping like she's never done anything wrong. Anyway, similar arguments could be made for depicting characters who are asexual and or aromantic, or somewhere on that gray spectrum. So I like to think about writing diversity in terms of 4 main levels. Level 1, avoiding it altogether, either because you're afraid of misrepresentation and backlash, or maybe you don't think diversity matters. Level 2, you write diverse characters who are defined by their marginalization, but in a negative way. In other words, your characters are based on stereotypes. So think of blaxploitation movies of the 70s or 80s, or the overly effeminate, overly sexual, flamboyant gay stereotype. Another example of this would be writing in a character with a disability, and then they are weak because of that disability, and the main focus is around that. Level 3, you write characters who happen to be a part of a marginalized group, but it's never explored or addressed. Like, you write a brown character, but if you change their ethnicity or skin color completely, it would not affect the story a single bit. Level 4, you do your research and attempt to write diverse characters who are, in part, defined by their marginalization, so the characters feel like real human beings and not just walking stereotypes. Are any of these right? Are any of these wrong? That's hard to say because that all depends on the story, the writer, and the audience. The only option I would say is inherently wrong would be option 2, writing characters based on stereotypes. An exception, though, can be made for reasons of parody or satire, although that's not everyone's cup of tea. Like, how many of us are sick of the fat girl trope in which she is always the side character as she thinks about her weight a lot, or she is the comic relief, often overly sexual, or the badass or tech-savvy Japanese girl who usually has color in her hair to show how edgy she is? Which level should you write? I can't answer that for you, but maybe I can help.
Level 1. This one is tricky because if your cast can check off most or all of the things in this list, thin, straight, cisgendered, able-bodied, neurotypical, white, then you'll just be seen as perpetuating the status quo. These characteristics have always been represented, and they have always been represented as normal and default. But take something like Coco, Black Panther, or Crazy Rich Asians. Yes, the cast is still homogenous, but they are interesting, culturally significant pieces that challenge the status quo in a big way. Level 2. Don't do it. Even if you do go for satire or parody, that takes a level of tact. Level 3. First of all, the 1997 Brandy Cinderella had a black Cinderella and an Asian prince with the black mother and white father, and this is the only version of Cinderella that matters to me. I will defend this movie until my dying breath. But anyway, there's nothing inherently wrong about this level, it just lacks depth. And some pieces, like the Brandy Cinderella, don't need that depth. Many pieces, however, would benefit from a bit more introspection. And also, please don't write your book and then try to J.K. Rowling your way onto the diversity hype train. Level 4. This is the ultimate level in terms of diversity. Does this mean it's always the right level? No. Like I said, the Brandy Cinderella is perfect the way it is. But sometimes exploring a character's identity in terms of their marginalization can lead to some really cool revelations, or better character development, or an interesting and deeper look into how the world works in your story. Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender is a wonderful example of this. She's not always thinking or talking about her blindness, but it's an integral part of her character. She has an entire personality that is not centered around her blindness, but it's still there. It's still part of what makes her character important. And she's not strong in spite of her disability, she's strong because of her disability. And if I may use an example from my own fairy tale retelling, Princess Snow White, I follow the original fairy tale relatively closely, but she's not just Snow White with dark skin. The fact that she has dark skin, 4C hair, and Afrocentric facial features is a key factor in the evil queen's hatred towards her. And the fact that Snow White loves herself means something in a society where people who look like me are typically not seen as beautiful.
So, it's ultimately up to you to decide which level is best for you, your story, your world, your characters, and your audience. So, thank you for watching. Likes and subscribes help me out so much. Super ninja shout out to LCT-Comics and Casian Holly, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!